We all assumed the Brown family chaos was simply Kody battling the wives who walked away. We thought it was about mortgages, spiritual unions, and messy property lines. But that was only the surface. The real conflict has been unfolding inside the Flagstaff mansion between two daughters trapped in a psychological tug-of-war. One has been elevated to fragile royalty, treated like a delicate ornament. The other has been pushed into the shadows, blamed for everything and valued for nothing. But insiders say something snapped inside Kody Brown and she has stumbled onto a medical secret so disturbing it could explain why Aurora can't move out of Flagstaff, and why her panic spirals always flare when she tries to assert independence. According to the theory terrifying fans, Aurora might not just be an anxious girl, she could be living under a reality TV version of Munchausen by proxy, where Robin keeps her mentally dependent and heavily medicated to ensure she never leaves. And the darkest twist, Brianna has figured it out. Now she's using that knowledge to hold leverage over her parents, sending shockwaves through the supposedly loyal inner circle that Kody is terrified the world might uncover. Before we dig into the hidden medical breadcrumbs and the chilling secrets inside that house, make sure you hit that like button. The algorithm always tries to bury anything that challenges the Kody and Robin narrative. So the more engagement this gets, the more truth we can drag into the light. Subscribe to Sister Wives Crew and hit the bell because the tea we're uncovering today is explosive and the next chapter only gets darker. To understand how serious things have become in Robin's household, we need to revisit how Aurora has been portrayed for years. The audience has been fed one consistent storyline: Aurora is fragile, emotionally sensitive, and prone to debilitating shutdowns that supposedly require Kody to literally carry her away like a small child. We've watched those scenes. Kody scoops her into his arms, Robin hovering nearby like a director ensuring the script plays out exactly as planned. But when you strip away the editing and the TLC soundtrack, what are we really seeing? Many viewers and even people with clinical experience have pointed out that Aurora's episodes don't match the typical presentation of panic attacks. In real medical cases, panic attacks are terrifying and overwhelming, but Aurora's reactions look rehearsed, more like learned behavior than uncontrollable physiological distress. The theory suggests that she was conditioned from childhood to believe that helplessness equals love. Whenever she acted self-sufficient, she got ignored. Whenever she broke down, she was drowned in praise and comfort. That pattern can trap someone in a permanent state of learned fragility. Recently, though, whispers from production insiders say Aurora was actually improving. During filming gaps, there were real signs she was preparing to step into her own life. Rumor has it she was actively exploring colleges in other states, talking about majors, considering dorm life far away from the suffocating tension at home. She allegedly confided to friends that she wanted out of the house, out of the pressure, out of the role she's been forced to play. She was applying, she was making plans, she was hopeful. And then, just as she reached the edge of freedom, everything collapsed again. Almost overnight, her health supposedly deteriorated. Her condition was suddenly too severe for travel or school. The timing was almost too perfect. The big question, was this a natural backslide or something manufactured? That's where the medication angle darkens the entire story. The Browns have a history of distrusting mainstream treatment in some situations, yet leaning heavily on medical narratives when it's convenient. So what exactly is Aurora being given? Is she receiving legitimate prescriptions from licensed doctors, or is she being fed a collection of sedatives, herbal mixes, or calming concoctions controlled entirely by Robin? This is the moment Brianna enters the picture. Brianna has always been the quiet observer in the background, the one watching everything with wide, cautious eyes. While Aurora collapses into Kody's arms, Brianna is behind her, unnoticed, absorbing every detail. She sees the favoritism, the staged helplessness, the manufactured crises, and silence can only build for so long before it erupts. According to insiders, the breaking point came when Brianna discovered Aurora's medication stash. And something didn't add up. Maybe she found pills that weren't real medication at all. Maybe she found sedatives so strong they'd leave anyone glassy and unfocused. Either way, whatever she saw shattered the illusion. Picture this: a quiet morning in the mansion. Kody is off pretending to work on the property. Robin is still asleep. Brianna opens a cabinet and finds pill containers that shouldn't exist. She Googles the labels. What she finds terrifies her. Suddenly everything makes sense: the foggy look in Aurora's eyes, the sudden collapses, the constant panic attacks that only happen at home. This realization gives Brianna a kind of power she's never had. If she exposes this, everything collapses for Kody and Robin. TLC would shut down production. Authorities would get involved. And Brianna knows it. What followed, according to whispers, was an explosive confrontation. A screaming match shook the kitchen. Brianna allegedly accused Robin of fabricating Aurora's illness. She confronted Aurora directly, telling her she's not sick, she's being controlled. Robin backed into a corner, reportedly dropped her emotional victim act, and revealed the colder version of herself the cameras never catch. Kody rushed home furious at Brianna, not at the allegations. For Kody, obedience is everything. Questioning Robin is an unforgivable offense. But Brianna didn't back down, and that's when the leak started. Anonymous posts online began revealing specific details about the home, conversations, schedules, information only someone inside would know. Some believe Brianna is behind these leaks, using anonymous accounts to breadcrumb the truth to the outside world. In hopes that someone will intervene, she can't openly rebel, but she can signal for help. Some of the most unsettling leaked evidence includes supposed pages from Aurora's diary. Nothing is confirmed, but the writing full of confusion, memory gaps, and fear fits the psychological patterns we're seeing. One entry allegedly mentions losing hours after drinking calming tea. Harmless on the surface, but potentially laced with sedatives. That could explain why Aurora struggles to fight for her own autonomy. You can't plan a future when you're constantly medicated into submission. Then there's the police incident. A neighbor reportedly called authorities after seeing a girl trying to climb out of a second-story window late at night. Kody came to the door smooth-talking the officers, claiming Aurora was sleepwalking due to new medication. The officers left, case closed. But Brianna, according to these theories, knows the truth. Aurora wasn't sleepwalking, she was trying to escape. Since that night, Aurora has nearly vanished. No sightings, no social media, no public appearances. Fans believe she's being kept in the basement suite, cut off from everyone including Brianna. Meanwhile, Brianna is suddenly seen with new clothes, a new car, and expensive accessories. People believe Kody and Robin bribed her into silence. She took the gifts, but the guilt hasn't left her eyes. It's the look of someone surviving, not thriving. From a psychological viewpoint, Robin's behavior during Aurora's breakdowns is revealing. Her facial expressions aren't those of a panicked mother, they're controlled, sometimes even satisfied. Kody's physical restraint of Aurora isn't comforting, it's infantilizing. It reinforces the idea that Aurora is incapable of functioning independently. This control extends to finances, according to insiders. There is a trust fund accumulated from years of family TLC income that is controlled by strict rules. The children only get money if they stay near home. There is allegedly even a clause where Kody must approve who they marry if they want access to their funds. It's financial captivity disguised as protection, and the most disturbing part? Much of that money likely came from the other wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, while Robin's kids reap the benefits. Dayton remains an enigma, living in the RV on the driveway, isolated, withdrawn, barely speaking. Is he another victim, or does he function as Robin's surveillance? No one knows. Even the adoption years ago looks different now. At the time, it seemed loving and necessary. Now, through this lens, it appears strategic. By adopting the kids, Kody cut off their biological father, removing the only person who could challenge him legally. Everything points to a system designed to keep these kids dependent, scared, and convinced they cannot survive without Kody and Robin. The audience, fans, and the public may be the only witnesses left who can see the cracks forming. If Brianna eventually decides she wants justice more than hush money, or if Aurora wakes up from the fog, this could turn into something much bigger, a legal battle involving medical coercion, financial manipulation, and psychological abuse. I somehow ended up in this random spot with two influencers who were busy chasing content, like it was their full-time job. One of them was an older man who gave off a strange energy, so I quietly avoided him. She laughed it off, saying he wasn't actually creepy, but he just wasn't someone she felt like talking to. Hey besties. After that, they both started recording again, switching poses like they'd rehearsed everything. I just stood there pretending to stay busy, hoping they wouldn't drag me into their video. The girl kept fixing her hair between takes, while the older guy kept glancing around like he was waiting for the perfect moment to jump back in. She whispered that they were trying to film some travel aesthetic clip, but honestly, it looked more awkward than stylish. I tried not to laugh, but the whole scene felt like a behind-the-scenes blooper reel no one asked for. The next morning, I woke up to the faint buzz of my phone. Messages from the influencers were waiting, short, sharp, and a little pushy. We're starting early today. Are you in? I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't really part of their content plan, yet somehow I kept getting dragged along. It wasn't the fame or recognition that bothered me. It was the constant unpredictability, the sense that I had no control over what would happen next. When I arrived at the location, the sun was just rising. Golden light poured over the dusty streets and quiet alleyways, casting everything in a warm, cinematic glow. It looked perfect for social media photos. Yet the calmness of the morning contrasted sharply with the chaos I knew was about to unfold. The girl, already adjusting her camera gear, waved at me without a hint of acknowledgement for my early arrival. The older guy was pacing, muttering under his breath, probably rehearsing lines or instructions for the shots. His energy was unnerving, a mix of anxiousness and overconfidence. They started with what they called engagement shots. I leaned against a wall, pretending to check my phone, but secretly I observed every move. She posed with exaggerated gestures, tilting her head this way and that, making sure every angle was captured. The guy would crouch, step back, then yell instructions through the lens, his voice echoing off the walls. There was a strange rhythm to it, like a dance, choreographed, yet utterly chaotic. Between takes, they would discuss lighting, angles, hashtags, captions, all in a language I only partly understood. I realized that this wasn't just about recording moments. It was about creating a narrative, controlling perception, manipulating how the world would see them. That's when it struck me how exhausting it must be to constantly perform, to constantly be on for an audience that didn't exist in real life. At one point, she asked me to hold a reflector. I nodded, unsure of whether I should, but complied anyway. The weight of the equipment was negligible compared to the tension in the air. Every glance, every subtle movement seemed rehearsed, yet nothing was perfect. They repeated the same shot dozens of times, each iteration slightly different, as though searching for the elusive perfect moment that might never come. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, heat seeping into every corner of the street. Sweat started to glisten on their foreheads, but they didn't care. Their focus was unyielding. I began to notice patterns in their behavior, the way she would glance at her reflection between shots, the way he would fidget with the tripod, constantly checking if the background was symmetrical. The meticulous obsession with small details revealed a deeper anxiety, the fear of imperfection. By midday, we moved to a new location, a small park with overgrown grass and scattered benches. Here, their dynamic shifted. The girl became more playful, suggesting poses and playful interactions, while he grew more authoritative, directing each movement with increasing intensity. I felt like an invisible witness to a scripted drama, one where the lines were improvised but the outcome predetermined. During a break, I finally asked them why they did this, why obsess over every frame, every angle, every expression. She laughed lightly, a mixture of amusement and exasperation. "It's how the world sees us," she said. "If you don't control the story, someone else will." He nodded, adding, "Perception is everything. Reality doesn't matter if no one sees it." The statement hung in the air, chilling in its simplicity. It made me reconsider my own actions, my own preoccupations with appearances and validation. The rest of the day unfolded like a surreal montage. They filmed in alleys, on benches, near fountains, constantly adjusting positions, props, and expressions. Every moment was dissected, every angle analyzed. I realized that this was more than content creation, it was a psychological exercise, a test of patience, perception, and control. By late afternoon, exhaustion set in. They finally took a moment to review the footage, critiquing themselves in a loop of self-reflection and correction. I stayed silent, observing, trying to absorb the lessons hidden in their frenetic behavior. It was both fascinating and disorienting, a reminder of how human desire for validation could turn everyday moments into elaborate performances. As the day ended, they packed up with the same meticulous care they had started with. I watched them leave, wondering how much of what I had witnessed would survive online, filtered through hashtags, likes, and comments. And as the empty streets settled into evening, I realized that in their world, authenticity was optional. Perception was everything, and every moment was a performance waiting to be shared with a faceless audience. The evening settled over the city, casting long shadows across the narrow streets. The golden hue of the sunset contrasted sharply with the tension that still lingered in the air. I walked behind them, unnoticed, as they moved toward a quieter location, a rooftop overlooking the urban landscape. The city below was alive with noise, honking cars, and distant voices, but up here, it felt like a different world entirely. She immediately positioned herself near the edge, the fading sun illuminating her face perfectly. The light glinted in her eyes, revealing a mix of excitement and fatigue. The older guy, camera in hand, began instructing her with the same intensity he had all day. "Tilt your head slightly. Look down, then back up. More intensity in your eyes." His voice was precise, almost surgical, slicing through the soft ambient sounds of the evening. I couldn't help but notice the contrast between the performance and reality. She posed perfectly, every expression carefully calculated. Yet there was an undercurrent of weariness. Her laughter, when it came, seemed almost rehearsed. It was as if the joy was borrowed from some imagined narrative rather than genuine emotion. After several takes, they paused. The city lights started to twinkle below, creating a cinematic backdrop that could easily be mistaken for magic. For a moment, everything seemed suspended in time: the faint breeze, the distant hum of traffic, the golden reflections on her skin. I felt like an invisible spectator to a world that existed only for the camera. He finally lowered the camera, walking closer to her. "You're almost there. Just one more set, then we're done," she nodded, exhaustion written across her features. But her posture remained impeccable. Every movement, every glance, every subtle shift was a part of the larger narrative they were creating. I realized that they weren't just capturing moments, they were manufacturing a story, a carefully curated illusion of perfection. I took a seat on a nearby ledge, watching the scene unfold. It was mesmerizing, yet unsettling. The boundaries between reality and performance had blurred so completely that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. Their obsession with control, with creating an image for an unseen audience, was both fascinating and a little tragic. Suddenly, she turned toward me, almost catching me off guard. "You've been watching all day," she said, her tone a mixture of curiosity and amusement. I shrugged, unsure of what to say. "It's impressive," I managed finally. "All this effort for just a few moments online." Her smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's not just for online. It's for how people see us, how they remember us. Moments fade, memories change, but a captured image, that's permanent. That's the version of reality we want them to see," he chimed in from behind, voice calmer now, less directive. "Perception is everything. Control perception and you control reality." There was a chilling truth to it, one that lingered even after they moved back to the rooftop edge for the final shots. The night grew colder, the air heavy with the scent of city concrete and distant rain. The final set began, slow, deliberate. She posed as the wind hustled her hair gently, shadows playing across her features in perfect contrast. He adjusted the tripod, fine-tuned the exposure, whispered directions so softly that I had to strain to hear. Every detail mattered: every fold of fabric, every flicker of expression, every imperceptible movement. As they wrapped up, I noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. The exhaustion was now mingled with relief, perhaps even pride. She had played her part flawlessly, delivered the performance perfectly, and finally, it was over. He packed up silently, his earlier intensity replaced by quiet satisfaction. I lingered on the rooftop a little longer, taking in the city lights, the distant sounds of life continuing below. I reflected on what I had witnessed, the lengths people go to shape their image, the invisible pressures that drive them, and the blurry line between authenticity and performance. It was mesmerizing, exhausting, and oddly beautiful all at once.